buildings. Centered in the San Fernando Valley, the quake shook buildings from San Diego clear across to Las Vegas. There were many casualties. At one hospital, there was what one witness called a tidal wave of walking wounded. An overpass on the Santa Monica Freeway collapsed, and so did an intersection of two major freeways in the San Fernando Valley. People were trapped in cars, in buildings, and caught in fires in communities across the valley. Bonnie Strauss is on the scene. Bonnie?
Nancy, I guess no words can really do justice to what everyone is feeling here. Everyone's on edge and as jittery as possible. And it's hard to really understand the impact of something like this unless you've seen it, either during and while it's happening or right after. American Journal producer Phil Reeder took a home camera, and he filmed some of the disaster immediately following the earthquake.
The violence of this earthquake was the most intense feeling that I've ever felt, and I've been a Californian my entire life. It must have been somewhere around 4:30, and our entire house, of course, was pitch black because my entire family were asleep. Suddenly, a jolt exploded in our house. It wasn't a shaking. It wasn't a rolling. It was an explosion without the smoke. We got outside, and this was, maybe 10 minutes later, we could start looking around, though still pitch black outside. We looked up, and we saw that my neighbor's chimney had collapsed. It had collapsed so violently that at least 1, 2, 3 of the bricks flew at least 30 or 40 feet into the air, smashing into my neighbor's Volvo and making huge dents on the hood. I then panned my eyes over to my chimney, my solid red brick chimney, and like a child's set of blocks, it too had collapsed. It was a devastating sight. We get the flashlights going, and as we walk back into the house on a moment of calm, we look and we see that the house is in an absolute shambles. My refrigerator, a very heavy model, had been thrown 3 or 4 feet from the wall. Drawers were pushed open. My kitchen pantry had exploded out with every bit of canned goods and baked beans, soup, you name it. Everything that was in my pantry had blown out into the floor. We have a ceiling fan that was separated from the wall. One of the blades of the fan actually broke from the fan and flew 15 feet to the right. We're getting an aftershock right now. It's not very hard, but we feel everything moving, and it's continuing, even as we speak right now. What I'm saying about this earthquake is that it absolutely ruined the inside, but not only my home, but just about every neighbor that I have on my block. Our neighbors were sleeping in their bed, and above their bed they have a very beautiful 200-pound mirror. They leapt out of their bed. Seconds later, that mirror collapsed and would have landed on their faces. We are very lucky people. We're lucky because we survived without being hurt. There are people in Los Angeles now who weren't so lucky.
Incredible to see so much destruction. Bonnie, I understand you had your own terrifying experience during the earthquake. What happened?
Well, Nancy, it was like anything I'd ever experienced before. It was around, 4:31, and we were sleeping, and then all of a sudden, we live on a small hill about 15 minutes from Northridge, and all of a sudden, the entire house, and we have a lot of glass and a lot of trees around, just started rocking and rolling in such a way that you felt that the earth was actually going to engulf you. Often before with earthquakes, we knew that they would stop. This one, you had the sense that maybe it wouldn't.
Did you panic?
Totally. I was surprised because I can speak in a very calm manner, but inside it was like my heart was racing. Obviously, we had no electricity. I knew I should find some slippers or some sneakers and a flashlight, and I realized how ill-prepared I was. I was crawling on the floor. I found some shoes. I was able to get out with my husband, and we went to find my son. He had been under a doorway. He was coming to look for us. And we kind of just groped around in the dark, and because our house is made with so much glass, we decided we should get outside, but finding our way outside was not easy.
What happened at your house? Is it all right?
Actually, we were lucky. I mean, our house is fine because it's built on bedrock, but we decided to take a car ride, and we went out down away from the trees, and we went to get a friend who I know is terrified of earthquakes, even minor ones. We went to get her, and she was about 10 minutes away. We were driving on the streets. Obviously, there weren't a lot of cars there. People, though, had come out of their homes, and many had lit candles. They just did not want to be inside. When we went to get her, she opened the door sobbing, and the entire contents of her home you know, they were shattered.
Well, we hope the situation gets better there for you, Bonnie, and for everyone out there. Thank you for talking with us. And we will have more on the California earthquake tomorrow. Tonya Harding's controversial fans when we come back.
She definitely has some fans who are so devoted to her that it wouldn't surprise me to have had that threat of violence.
And Tonya Harding. Now, Harding has always been a controversial figure, and as Steve Avison reports from Portland, Oregon, she has fans ready to go to outrageous lengths to show their dedication.
Elaine Stamm is drawn to the sport of figure skating for its grace and athleticism. And as president of the one-year-old Tonya Harding fan club, she has a special passion for one skater.
My initial reasoning for starting a fan club was because my heart went out to her when I read that she was compared to these other skaters who were so-called media darlings, and compared their designer dresses to ones that her sister-in-law made for her.
Many fans are attracted to Tonya because of her hard-scrabble personal background and unconventional skating style. They feel that she has been overlooked at times because of her blue-collar roots, and as a result, they have a chip-on-the-shoulder attitude about the skating establishment. At times, that passion is expressed in extreme fashion. Letters like these have been sent to major skating publications on Tonya's behalf, accusing officials of a detestable display of bigotry and elitism. Joe Herron is a Vietnam veteran and former journalist who regards support for Tonya as a necessary form of combat.
Because not only myself but other people had become tired of just being polite all the time and ignoring things that we think are instances of bias against Tonya. So finally, I said, okay, the journalists, quote unquote, have had a couple of years to address these issues. They're not interested in doing so, so I will.
This activist attitude on the part of those fans closest to Tonya has sometimes gone to extremes. Scott Lynn is a sports journalist in Portland and has followed Tonya's career since she was 13.
I've got to think, because she definitely has some fans who are so devoted to her and dedicated to her well-being and her achieving that gold medal, that it wouldn't surprise me to have had that threat of violence.
One example of that occurred when columnist Julie Vader of the Oregonian newspaper was allegedly threatened by Joe Herron. The reporter's misdeed? She dared to write in her paper that Tonya Harding should consider not smoking cigarettes.
That was determined to be negative press by some of the people in her fan club.
Joe Herron denies he ever threatened Julie Vader. But as a board member of the Tonya Harding fan club and editor of the club's newsletter, he has written several articles that have taken on a mean-spirited tone, including comments like this. Perhaps Kerrigan can defeat Tonya in accounting rooms at tournaments with media favoritism and Eastern Seaboard hype, but she will never defeat Tonya on the ice at figure skating. Some people would suggest that the newsletter that you edit creates a culture of paranoia that might encourage people to take the kind of action that was taken against Nancy Kerrigan.
I feel I set forth strong arguments as best I could with the poor abilities I have, and okay, just everybody live with it. I mean, it's no big deal. It's just stuff I'm writing. It's just questions I'm asking.
The fact is, Joe Herron's actions became a little too extreme even for his friend Tonya Harding. In the fall, she made it known that she wanted Joe to stay away from her. He was removed as editor of the newsletter for 2 issues, but by November, he was back writing and had moved in with Tonya's father as a roommate. When we approached Tonya's father for a comment, he had this to say.
Have you talked to her?
Clearly, the pressure on Tonya and her family has been great. In the past, that has led to an us-against-the-world mentality. But some feel that in order for Tonya to survive now, this has to change. Dennis Regelin is an organizer in the fan club, and he thinks Joe Herron and others have gone too far.
I think it's important that we are skating fans first and Tonya fans second. And you can be a Tonya fan without disliking all the other skaters and judges and skating community.
And that's not the only crack in the armor of support for Tonya Harding. In the midst of this week's revelations, Joe Herron, the man many describe as Tanya's most obsessed fan, checked himself in here at the Veterans Administration Hospital. He claims, Nancy, that the reason was that he was depressed over this whole affair.
Well, Nancy Kerrigan skated in public for the first time since the attack, and it looks like she is recovering quickly. But things look bleaker for Tonya Harding, even though she denies that she was involved in the alleged plot to keep Kerrigan out of the Olympics. When we come back, the heartbreaking climax of a custody battle. Police raid a home to take a child away from his foster parents.
I can't believe they broke into my home, they put my other children through this, and they put that baby through this.
Continental. One airline can make a difference. Business first. The comfort and service of international first class at a business class fare. That's the difference on Continental.
Wednesday, these grieving parents lost their daughter on Christmas Eve, and they tell American Journal they believe she was killed. Now they're dedicated to solving her murder.
I have made the most incredible garden, and it's so satisfying.
I learned how to cook things that seemed so exotic, and now they're just part of my repertoire.
It's opened up a lot of places for us that we would never have found on our own.
Home improvement ideas that I can do, things that don't cost a fortune.
Now you can do exciting new things, risk-free, with the Magazine of Western Living. Sunset. Try Sunset out. Call now and you'll get 4 Sunset guides free.
It takes the guesswork out. There's no risk involved.
It's not rocket science. They make it really easy for you to do it.
Discover Sunset with the 4 free guides. 100 ideas on cooking, gardening, building, and vacationing, and they're all free.
The 4 free guides are like a best of Sunset magazine.
It's an excellent introduction. They're going to give you the great ideas that you're going to find in Sunset magazine every month.
Get the guides and you'll discover that the ideas in Sunset are risk-free.
Simple, good, sound advice. I never thought that I had a green thumb, but Sunset magazine has shown me otherwise. The flowers that I see in the magazine grow right in my yard. I know that they've been tested for my particular area, and they're going to work. The recipes in Sunset magazine are so foolproof that even my husband can use them.
You do feel that you're getting advice from a good friend.
We've gotten into water rafting, primarily because of a couple of articles that we saw in Sunset magazine.
We feel completely confident that what we're going to do is going to come in at budget, it's going to be affordable, and it'll be done right.
Call now. Get 4 free guides plus your first issue risk-free. If you're not delighted, cancel and you won't pay a penny. And you get to keep the guides free.
I would recommend it to anybody. You'd have to be crazy not to take advantage of it.
If you like what you see, you'll love this. Get a year of Sunset for 3 monthly installments of only $4.99. A savings of over 50% off the cover price.
Give Sunset a try. You have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain.
You can't go wrong.
Call now. Try Sunset risk-free and get these 4 Sunset guides free.
Sunset magazine